GameSir's current controller lineup is catastrophically confusing, and that is because over the last 2 years, they have compiled what is the most saturated entry budget level segment of Xbox and Nintendo Switch controllers, as all the gamepads they currently offer are for those two platforms and under $60, with the exception of the snap and clip mobile phone controllers like the Galileo. So this video is going to act as somewhat of a buyer's guide, as I have personally tested and reviewed all of the GameSir models out currently, and like a proud parent, I silently have my favorite, but I'm actually going to share it with the world. I'm not going to be like, well, Tommy's grades are better, but Sally's going places because she's got ambition and raw passion. We're going to look at the entire model lineup from GameSir. I'm going to explain which gamepads I would pass on and which ones I would pick up. Let's get it.
This is your controller captain. We've reached 6,900 feet. Go ahead and start flicking the sticks and mollywhopping the back paddles.
You don't like back paddles? How about those rear buttons? We've tested almost 100 custom and premium controllers, and we're only at the beginning. You need a thumbstick guide or tutorial on how to overclock your controller? Check out the controller playlist.
Bing bong.
Controller captain out.
GameSir's always been about the cheaper budget gamepads, and they've progressively been getting cheaper. They've been doing the limbo over there. How low can you go? And it's proven that they can get extremely low, as they do have the cheapest Hall effect controller on the market at $25 for the Nova Lite. However, if you caught my recent review of the Nova Lite and the Nova Standard for $36, and you know that I don't recommend either one of those controllers because the wireless connection was not very consistent. Ergonomically, it's not nearly as comfortable as the Cyclone and Cyclone Pro, and overall, I don't think it holds a candle to the OG G7 or G7 SE, or the T4 Kaleid for that matter. I'd like to quickly point out that this has not been edited or revised. It is not 500 cycles. It is indeed 5. Never drift is incorrect. You can get stick drift with Hall effect thumbstick modules, and this controller does not have tri-mode connectivity, as this model does not come with the low latency wireless dongle, which cannot be bought separately. And even if it could, this is a $36 controller, so nobody wants to buy an additional $10, $15 dongle or adapter to get this sucker working. And by the way, that dongle is sporadic, all over the place, slow, not very consistent. So this should be removed because it is blatantly incorrect. It does not have a wireless dongle with it. However, the cheaper Lite over here does, and it also has additional functionality on the board for switching modes on the fly. But you do get two rear buttons with the Nova and not with the Lite. Now, if you do want a wireless gamepad from GameSir, I strongly recommend checking out the Cyclone Pro. That is my utmost recommendation. It had good consistency wireless, and that includes with the adapters or converters that I use, Bluetooth connecting to Xbox and PlayStation, even though this is only designed to work with Nintendo Switch. Something else to note, the Nova Lite does not have gyro, despite the fact that isn't really mentioned or compared anywhere on their website. I wasn't even explained that information from my representative that sent the controllers out to me. What a fat L. Lack of communication over there. But with the Cyclone and Cyclone Pro over here, you have gyro in both models, a more comfortable ergonomic shape and shell design, better feeling components, better feeling plastics, and a better wireless connection. So if you're looking for a wireless, no wires, no cords connected gamepad from GameSir, you're going to want to look at the Cyclone Pro over here. If you're wondering what's the difference between the Pro and the Cyclone, I'm just going to direct you to the full review of both, which is linked in the description. One review for both controllers, comparison in there. We're going to go ahead and clear our table of a couple of these plates. Controllers I wouldn't even recommend looking at, and that is these two bad boys down here. Is it because they're wired? Not at all. I'm a big fan of the G7, SE, and T4 Kaleid. They're all wired, but these two bad boys are savagely outdated and outclassed in the feature set by all of their newer models. So I would steer clear of the T4W and the T4 Pro. Same thing if you're looking for a mobile clip style controller for your phone, I would steer clear of the X2 and the X2 Pro, as well as the X2S, and simply pop for the G8 Galileo, which is the best snap and clip style controller I've used. 3 plates we can clear off the table because they just didn't taste very good. They might have been a little bit decadent on our palettes a few years ago when they came out, but they've been outclassed as there are features available in all of the new competitors that these simply don't have. Get rid of the T3S, don't look at the T4 Pro or the T4W. You'd be better off looking at all these models up here. Now, as for GameSir's wired controllers, you do have the OG G7, which has rubber grips and mechanical face buttons, and can also be overclocked to 1000 Hz within the manufacturer's software, the GameSir NYXI app, giving it in essence around 1 millisecond of input lag or delay when on console and PC. Now, I personally prefer the OG original G7 over the SE, which does have the addition of magnetic Hall effect thumbstick modules for an additional $5, but it removes the rubber grips in lieu for some mediocre feeling plastics, and also removes the mechanical face buttons for typical membrane joints, which don't feel as good and are more susceptible to get stuck in or break. But on the SE, you do also have a nice lock system, so if you accidentally hit the rear buttons, you can turn those off. But the G7 and SE are both phenomenal gamepads. I can't recommend them enough. They're at $40 and $45, respectively, and the comprehensive reviews for both of those is linked in the description below if you want a little bit more information. Now, a controller that I commonly overlook and just forget to talk about is going to be the T4 Kaleid.
Another one.
This is extremely similar to the G7 series, except it has a little bit more pro controller features, if you will. It does have this RGB lighting, which is a cool cosmetic touch. You have the same magnetic Hall effect thumbstick modules as the SE, which are drift resistant. You do get the tactile face buttons of the G7 standard, which are rated for 5 million clicks and have an actuation distance of 0.6 meters and an actuation force of 60 plus 10 GF, or girlfriends. And there is a trigger lock system, so to speak, on that controller, but it is just a digital software based. You hold down mode and the triggers and it software blocks out some of the pull. It does not work the same as what you're used to with physical trigger stops. And with most GameSir controllers, you do have that snappy, crisp, good 6-axis motion control, which some controllers do not, such as this one, and the Nova Lite. The Kaleid's not a bad controller by any means. In fact, it is a very good controller. However, I still prefer the G7, G7 SE, Cyclone Pro, and Cyclone over the T4 Kaleid. And I guess that just comes down to raw guttural feel after using all of these gamepads for the last couple of years. The T4 Kaleid is a good gamepad, but I always seem to get more enjoyment from the G7 brothers or the Cyclone brethren. I don't know, personal preference, I guess. And last but not least, kind of touched on it earlier, but if you're looking for a cell phone clip style controller, the G8 Galileo is fantastic.
So a somewhat short video, a little bit longer than I'd like it to be. It got a little bit long-winded.
Couldn't take the breeze out of my sails like I wanted to,
but hopefully this was an effective buyer's guide.
If you're looking at the GameSir model lineup and you're a little bit confused, they're all going to be $60 and under for Xbox or Switch. I personally like the Cyclones because they do have the converter support, so you can use them across all platforms, and they were pretty consistent across all platforms as well, unlike the Nova, which did work on the Xbox, but not great, didn't work on the PlayStation at all. And the overall vibes that the Nova and Nova Lite give screams budget-oriented, cheap, how low can you go gamepad, as where the G7 and Cyclone are cheap-ish gamepads, but didn't feel quite as cheap. Drop in the comment section below what GameSir controllers you own, if any, and what your thoughts are on them, and I will see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more Stallions and Stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.